Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading's in-person and virtual Sunday worship service. My name is Charlene Reynolds-Santo. I'm a member of the worship arts team, and my pronouns are she and her. Today, we gather in an understanding and welcoming environment where we nurture and explore individual spirituality, work to build a committed and loving community, and to help heal our fragile world. Whoever you are, wherever you are from, whoever you love, whatever your faith tradition, you are welcome here. If this is your first time with us, I would like to extend a special welcome to you. If you haven't already, please look at our webpage for more information about UUCR. Here you can find information about us and get details about our church community and sign up for the weekly newsletter. You can also find the contact information from Melissa Martin, our Member Services Coordinator. She'll be able to answer any of your questions. Our Share the Plate tradition started more than 2.5 years ago as a spiritual practice of giving half of each Sunday's collection to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. We do this not because we have more than we need, but because there is so much need. And this is a powerful way for each of us to live out our mission's commitment to heal the world by learning about and supporting the good works of charitable organizations and becoming more involved in our community. The physical collection will be later in our service, but I want to take a moment to tell you about our Share the Plate recipient for the month of August. It's UU Ministry for Earth, UUMFE. This group works with congregations and individuals to help them act together to address environmental justice and the climate crisis. UUMFE provides the tools and develops the coalitions necessary for Unitarian Universalists and others to take bold, faith-based action for environmental justice. Now, on behalf of the staff and all volunteers involved in today's service, I want to thank you all for being here today, whether it's physically or virtually. We believe you belong here. You belong here maybe just for the next hour, although we hope for longer. You do belong here, and we are glad that you have joined us today.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Katie Mcquaid Lucas. I'm your ministerial intern and your summer worship coordinator, and my pronouns are she and hers. Let us enter into this sacred hour with the words of Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Into this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home, we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering, we bless this place. In its shelter, we know ourselves blessed. And so please join me in lighting our chalice together. The words are in your order of service. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. And now our children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Our opening hymn this morning is Gather the Spirit. And as always, the words are in your order of service. Please take whatever physical position feels good to you for singing, be that standing, rising, whatever feels good. If you need the music, it's number 347 in the gray hymnal. Number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Needs for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
We now have a responsive reading. Don't Leave Your Broken Heart by Angela Herrera. Now, it's printed in your order of service, if you could read the words in italics. Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. That has high standards and the world needs vision. Bring them with you, and your joy and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing, power to heal. There is work to do, and you have all you need to do it right here in this room.
As we enter into our time of prayer, please pause for a moment of silence as I light our candles of community and our candles for peace. And now, please join with me in prayer. Infinite mystery, wellspring of wisdom and of wonder, source of all our being. Bless us this morning. Bless us with the remembrance of moments of interconnection. Bless us with the anticipation of more to come, to sustain us as we navigate a fragmented and wounded world. Help us to see where our gifts are needed in this world, and help us to receive the gifts of others when we are in need. May we remember that even if we are lonely, even if we are anxious or in despair, that disconnection may yet be healed, that we are worthy of love and friendship, and that our own love is a worthy gift for others. We rejoice this morning in the goodness found in community and in the goodness that is possible right here, right now in this life. Help us to expand that goodness, to be bearers of joy and hope, to be seekers of truth and liberation, and to be bearers of peace and justice. Amen, and may it be so.
Today's reading, The Prophethood of All Believers by James Luther Adams. We have long held to the priesthood of all believers, the idea that all believers have direct access to the ultimate resources of the religious life, and that every believer has the responsibility of achieving an explicit faith for free persons. As an element of radical laicism, we need also a firm belief in the prophethood of all believers. The prophetic liberal church is not a church in which the prophetic function is assigned merely to the few. The prophetic church is the church in which persons think and work together to interpret the signs of the times in the light of their faith, to make explicit through a discussion the epochal thinking that the times demand. Hope is a virtue, but only when it's accompanied by predication and by the daring venture of new decision. Only where the prophethood of all believers creates epochal thinking.
So in the 1940s, the American Unitarian Association launched a church planting project, encouraging small local groups across the country to establish lay-led churches. And that effort continued after the merger, and do-it-yourself UU congregations continued to spring up, ultimately numbering probably somewhere between 400 and 600 congregations. Some of those congregations ultimately failed. Some of them became led by ministers. But around a third of today's UU congregations were formed during that time. And many of those, although it's hard to track exactly how many, are still lay-led. All of this is to say that there is a rich tradition of do-it-yourself in our heritage, one that is grounded in our theology. The phrase priesthood of all believers gained traction very early in the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther was very clear that any baptized believer was a priest, and that those who were being chosen by the community are coming from that group to represent the community. So for Luther, priests and pastors represented the body of the community and were not acting as representatives of God. Calvin continued developing that belief, establishing early versions of democratic systems. The Congregationalists carried it here, further developing the systems that our early Unitarians would inherit. And the Universalists brought this with them too, especially those who came down from the more radical branches of the Reformation. This is why the right to ordain belongs to the congregation and to not some national body. Congregations might outsource some of the work to the national body to ensure that standards are met and to interview all of us who are coming along. But it's the congregations that recognize talent or skill, and it is the community who discerns and decides if a person represents them. Today is my last Sunday morning here with all of you. And so many of you have expressed your gratitude and your appreciation for my presence this year, and I have been moved by that. But I do want to remind all of you that if I hadn't been here, you would have made it through. It might have looked different, but do not underestimate your own abilities. Each one of us has the ability to listen and to be present with someone who needs to be heard and held. Each one of us has our own wisdom to offer. Each one of us has a story of our own individual and personal encounter with the sacred that we can bring and share with this community. Every single one of us has our own passions for justice. And when we bring these together into the whole, they form a comprehensive response to this world. Each and every one of us brings our gifts to this community in the form of our talents and our time, and yes, our treasure too. And so the priesthood and the prophethood of all believers, each of us carries in us all that we need to access the holy and all that we need to discern and to speak for justice. And indeed, these things go together because it's our search for truth and meaning that sparks our individual prophetic voices. And so part of the work is individual, done by each of us alone, but part of it is done together in community. So having just made the case for the possibility of no minister whatsoever, Why am I trying to make this my profession? For me, there was a moment when I shifted from curiosity to really knowing this was the thing I wanted to do. And it was simply a moment of frustration and trying to fit all of my church life into the gaps in the rest of my life. I didn't want to try to fit church in around the edges anymore, but to center it. And I had known my work at the time was not a called vocation. It wasn't easy to leave that work, but I didn't feel torn between multiple callings. Alongside the priesthood of all believers, the early reformers made a strong case that everything we do in the world, every job, every piece of work is a vocation. And we all know people for whom work isn't just a job. We know teachers and doctors and scholars and lawyers and librarians and craftspeople and builders. And we all also know people who live out their vocations outside of paid employment, committed volunteers and activists, but also parents and friends, gardeners, hobbyists, and musicians. And so from this perspective, being a minister is just one way to live out my own individual sense of who I am in the world. And so I've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy, and yes, quite a bit of money, acquiring expertise, apprenticing under people with experience, and practicing ministry as a craft. But it's so important to remember that not a single moment of that was me single-handedly making church happen. I show up on Sunday morning and one hopes I offer you some wisdom or at least some points of curiosity as part of a larger experience of interconnection and wonder. And what only some of you get a chance to see is the ministers having conversations with musicians, with our religious educators, with our worship associates, to make this a full experience. And without the tech volunteers and the choir and the ushers, that experience would be so much less. And remember that you also have among you so many wise people who have shared their wisdom with you, crafting their own worship services around those offerings in the past year. I've had phone calls and visits where I hope that I have accompanied you well. But remember that we all accompanied each other at some point over these last 2 years. And I've picked up some threads of justice work, but here there are so many people with passion and with drive who have done far more than I as an individual could do. And they'll continue to do it next year, and they'll do it the year after that too. There are priests and prophets aplenty among us, and none of this work has been mine alone. And so while I may have some hard-earned expertise, and while I do know that I show up with my own gifts and my own skills, I also know that every person here shows up that way. So however you are shaped by future ministries in the years ahead, please remember that it is, as it always is, a collaboration and a partnership. The gifts that you all bring to this community and that each future minister will bring, these gifts will make magic together. And remember that every component is necessary to the whole.
Thank you, Katie. I almost wanted to clap, but I didn't know if I should. Our congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, you may put your gift in the collection plate as it goes by. Otherwise, you may make a gift online or send in a check. Please give as generously as you are willing and able to our Share the Plate offering to support UU Ministry for Earth and the mission of UUCR. If this is your first time with us, let your presence be gift enough. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator and the Interim Congregational Administrator. My pronouns are she and her. I'm here to share today's Our Congregational Life Invitations, where we connect what happens here within our worship service to the other areas of our spiritual community and our larger world. Our September newsletter is out, and in it you will find many opportunities for connection, including a few I'll share with you this morning. It's important to note that this congregation and its many ministries are made entirely possible by the time, talent, and treasure of the individuals who make this their spiritual home, as Katie so well indicated in her sermon. So first, I would like to extend a thank you to those who made today's service special. Our ushers and greeters who answered the call, Rachel, Susan, Pat, and Dakota. Our worship associate, Charlene. Our tech support behind the scenes, Al Murray. Our social hour host, Mary. Marie Hansen, who provided these beautiful chancel flowers in memory of her father, Joseph E. Hansen Jr., on what would have been his 101st birthday. And I wish to thank everyone who made this summer truly magical and possible, both in person and online. Everyone that filled the roles I just mentioned, and also important to acknowledge our dedicated governing board who thoughtfully considered and made the commitment of resources to make this summer possible. As we prepare for the start of a new church year, I hope that you'll consider to be a part of this, our shared ministry. All of the thank yous I just shared are positions filled by volunteers, congregants just like you. Reach out if you'd like to know more about how to help in any of those ways. Also, a big thank you, and a big way that you can make a difference this church year is by volunteering to be part of our religious education program, known here as RE. It's that cornerstone of this congregation, and this September we're kicking off an exciting new year with our new director, Laura Ellen. Volunteers make this program possible, and there are plenty of ways, big and small, for you to support our children and our youth. So you can see Laura Ellen or our newsletter for ways to volunteer, and parents are encouraged to register their children now. Our Kris Kringle Fair is just 7 weeks away. It's on Saturday, October 15th from 9 to 2, and the fair is earlier than usual, so your help and donations are needed to make it a success. So while donations will be accepted between Sunday the 9th and Friday the 14th, our jewelry donation basket is already in our atrium, and you can drop off your jewelry donations anytime that the church is open. Our jewelry crew says the earlier the better. Beginning Sunday the 11th of September, you can bring your address labels with you here to church to buy your raffle tickets. And pretty soon when we're back in our sanctuary, you'll be able to see our new raffle quilt. It's absolutely stunning. And the most important thing that you can do this year is volunteer. So in our newsletter, you will find all the different positions, all the ways, big and small, leading up to the fair and the day of the fair itself. And so what will your role be? Let us know. I'd also like to take a moment today to sincerely thank our talented summer musician, Trevor. Trevor, thank you so much for leading our music program this summer so thoughtfully and professionally. We hope that you enjoy your well-deserved Sunday off next weekend. And we look forward to hearing you play alongside Mary and the choir at our in-gathering on the 11th. Sincerely, thank you. I also have a message to you from Roald Wilson, our other summer musician. He wants you to know that next Sunday, the 4th, will be his first service in more than 2 years that he will lead and lead the sermon. So he's doing everything, the entire service. And the sermon he's leading is titled The Sacred Cow Tipping Point. So join us for the summer's final summer service next Sunday and invite a friend. Today, as you know, we're wrapping up Katie Mcquaid Lucas's final service with us. I wish to invite Kitty Craig Coleman and Lynn Champion up to help us represent our quilters. And while they're joining me, I just wish to share that they have lovingly handcrafted a stole for Katie along with Molly Bicking. And Molly shared with me that while the stole might appear simply crafted, the creators actually took a great deal of time collaborating on its creation through thought and discussion, through moments of challenge, and also lots of laughter. So thank you, Molly, Kitty, and Lynn.
Well, I'll say when we asked Katie about what she would like as far as symbols that were important to her or what colors she would want in her stole, she had replied, water and trees and air. We also did talk some about green and blue and maybe aqua, I believe was preferred. So we chose fabric with the scene of a rocky ocean shore that seems like the inlet that she's described near her home in Revere, where she sometimes goes for reflection and replenishment. It combines the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. And close to her heart, there's a flaming chalice, which was embroidered by my sister, Molly Bicking. Molly came here for a while, but she's returned to her UU congregation in Andover, but she still participates in UU Stitchers, UU Quilters. So, yeah, yes, the UU Stitchers is the Andover group, so she does that too. The backing of the quilt is a fabric of trees, and there are also 2 pockets for a sound system unit and for tissues. So.
There's a dedication that's on the inside of the stole, and we placed it as close to your heart as we
Let
knew.
me get up here so we can get you on the mic.
Okay.
Just in case nobody online can hear if you're not on the mic.
Okay. New to this.
Yep.
So, and so there's a dedication on the inside of the stole, so that people, and we put it as close to the heart as possible. So in your later ministerial life, when you have dozens of these, you'll be able to spot the one that's the UU Church of Reading. And the dedication says, dedicated to Katie Mcquaid Lucas for providing spiritual, emotional, and social support to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading during the COVID pandemic and significant staff transitions as our ministerial intern from 2020 to 2022. We are so grateful for your compassionate pastoral care, insights, wisdom, and humor in leading worship services and working with the congregation. And staff, I knew I was going to screw that up, during our time of great need and transition. With love and gratitude from the UUCR quilters, blessed be. I'm going to stick that in my pocket.
Move to the. I was thinking we might want to also be.
And I'm the tall one. So let's see how we're doing. Let's see how, oh, you're doing great back there.
Yeah.
Great back there. And here's, that's one of the pockets.
To demonstrate.
Where did the dedication go? Is it over here?
I think it's
Oh, it's over here it is. It's right here.
right there.
The other half.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I should do a step forward.
You can stay right here for a second. Okay. So I just wanted to say, those who are unable to join us in person today can send along their good wishes to Katie through her intern email through this week, or by sending a note here to church through the U.S. Postal Mail, and we'll make sure that we forward it to her. Those in person today, please stay for our farewell social hour to bid farewell to Katie. And on behalf of the staff and the entire congregation, we wish to sincerely thank you for your ministry with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life.
I'm very grateful that I'd already chosen a closing reading because I don't think that I could come up with words very eloquently right now. And I wish that I had tissues to put in this tissue pocket right now. My closing reading is from Reverend Gordon McKeeman. Ministry is all that we do together. Ministry is that quality of being in community that affirms human dignity, beckons forth hidden possibilities, invites us into deeper, more constant, reverent relationships, and carries forward our heritage of hope and liberation. Ministry is what we do together as we celebrate triumphs of our human spirit, miracles of birth and life, wonders of devotion and sacrifice. Ministry is what we do together with one another, in terror and torment, in grief, in misery and pain, enabling us in the presence of death to say yes to life. We who minister speak and live the best we know with full knowledge that it is never quite enough, and yet are reassured by lostness found, fragments reunited, wounds healed, and joy shared. Ministry is what we all do together. And our closing hymn is one of my favorites because it's the last one I will sing with you. And so we're going to do every verse because it's one of my favorites. And so it's number 298, Wake Now My Senses. And as always, take whatever position feels good to you. The music is in the gray hymnal. Number 298, Wake Now My Senses. Please join me in song.
Wake up my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being involved. Deep with the web of creation you are. Giving, receiving as the source of. Bring out my reason, reach out to the new. Join with the children who pursue. Honor the beauty of wisdom and time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Bring now compassion with me to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and signing their hearts into one. Wake now my conscience with justice I guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted the privilege grace. God's love embraces the whole human race. Make now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our prayer.
And now please join me in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. My benediction for you this morning is from Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. And so, like sunshine, go out and brighten the world. Blessed be, and go in peace this morning.